Don't make any fantasy basketball trade deadline moves until you watch this. Here are the waiver wire targets you need to pay attention to post trade deadline for week 18 of the NBA fantasy season. Malachi Branham. He's only rostered in 18% of Yahoo leagues. He's averaging over the last 7 days 2.3 3-pointers per game, 15.3 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, and 0.7 steals per game. Listen, Josh Richardson was just traded away from San Antonio. So there's going to be tons of opportunity for someone to eat. And this young man over the last 7 days has been showing that he's hungry. Make yourself a move and grab him off of the waivers. The next player is another San Antonio Spur. We've been talking about him for the last couple of weeks leading up to the trade deadline, Zach Collins. Zach Collins is just rostered in 47% of Yahoo leagues. He's averaging 0.7 threes per game over the last 7 days, 14.7 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 2.3 assists. Go check it out now because he's flying off the shelves in all fantasy formats. So if you can grab him with the trade of Jakob Poeltl going over to Toronto, there's going to be lots of runway for him to hit the ground running and see if he could fill that starting position. And yes, the Spurs are a little flaky because they're tanking and they just kind of look suspect. Listen, it's worth a shot to pick him up off of your waiver wire. Next up is a player that not so many people are talking about in the fantasy community, Talen Horton-Tucker. He's just rostered in 6% of Yahoo leagues. I think he's a must-add for 14 and 16 team leagues. He's averaging over the last 7 days 12 points a game, 4 rebounds a game, 7 assists, and 1.5 blocks. Super valuable, especially in category leagues. Now listen, the Jazz kind of traded everybody away. There's all kinds of trades happening, people coming in, people coming out. When the dust settles, they're going to need players on the hardwood playing basketball, like actually in the game performing. With that said, I think your man has tons of opportunity. Go ahead and pick him up if he's available. Next up from the Phoenix Suns, we have Torrey Craig. With the trade of Mikal Bridges and Kevin Durant coming into town, it looks like Torrey Craig might be in the starting lineup. If he's available on your waivers, I would go ahead and pick him up. The next guy is not a priority ad, but someone you need to pay attention to. Formerly of the Denver Nuggets, now with the LA Clippers, Bones Highland. Bones Highland is on a team that just shipped off Reggie Jackson, just shipped off John Wall, and also there's rumors in the streets that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are going to have limited minutes down the stretch. Who knows what's going to happen? He was kind of a bonehead in Denver, and that's why he wasn't getting playing time. But when he's on the floor, we've seen Bones Highland perform. He's still young, still tons of upside. I would give him an ad if he's available, and you can stomach it until you see what happens. And of course, I have to talk about the prom king of the trade deadline, Mark Williams from the Charlotte Hornets. Now, he's probably already on somebody's roster. If he's not, right, go right now and go pick him up and then come back to this video. Any way you look at it, he's a rookie big man with tons of upside, and with the trade of Mason Plumlee getting out of town, it's just going to give him a lot of opportunity to shine. Now keep in mind, if you play Dynasty, you want to make sure that you make some offers for him if he's already on the roster, because when he was in college, he was like the ACC Defensive Player of the Year, I believe. Like, he's really a guy we've been talking about all season. So see if you can trade for him if he's not available on your waiver wire if you're in a Dynasty league. By the way, I'm Robin Marks from Game Pick Fantasy Basketball. You can connect with me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Game Pick Podcast. If you love fantasy sports, please consider subscribing, give this episode a like, and hit the bell to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of these fantasy gems. We release new episodes every single week. And if you need help with your team, drop a comment with your question. Very important. If you have follow-up questions or you have more than one question, do not reply to your comment on the same thread. Just start a brand new comment thread so I don't miss your question. I will answer every single comment for this episode, Scout's Honor. Next up, I want to talk about buy lows and sell highs. Let's start out with our buy lows. The first one, Kenyon Martin Jr. from the Houston Rockets. Eric Gordon was just moved out of Houston, so that opens up a lot of opportunity for the young man. Listen, he could easily be a waiver wire ad as well, but I had to put him down as a buy low because I think he's going to go off. Make sure you get yourself some Kenyon Martin Jr. The next buy low is considered by many to be the biggest winner of the trade deadline. Yes, from the Brooklyn Nets, Spencer Dinwiddie. He was moved to Brooklyn in the trade for Kyrie Irving. And listen, if you didn't know, Spencer Dinwiddie used to play for the Nets. He knows that arena. He knows that community. I'm telling you, Spencer Dinwiddie's last couple games, even though they weren't horrible, they're no sign of what is to come. Like, what is to come is your man being the primary scorer. So if you can kind of create a narrative around him that he's not going to be that guy and you can bring him, or if you could just make a reasonable offer to bring him back to your team, I think it could help you to secure the fantasy championship this year. Another person you want to consider buying low on is Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton has had a really horrible season so far, but a lot of moving parts happening in Utah. Russell Westbrook, Mike Conley, just a whole lot happening. There might be some opportunity for him, and we've seen him in Cleveland. He's a good points league guy. If you're in a points league and you want to make a trade for him, this would be the opportunity to buy low. The last buy low is DeAndre Ayton. With Kevin Durant coming to Phoenix, it's going to open up the floor. He's going to benefit from KD being on the team. So you might be able to buy low on him right now, but I guarantee you when KD is healthy and he's playing, it won't be the same price. This week's injury buy low is the man of the hour of the trade deadline, Kevin Durant. If you can secure Kevin Durant for a 2-for-1 trade right now, I would bust that move really quick before he comes back. Look at the league mate you have who is struggling and clawing to try to make the playoffs. If he has KD, that's the guy you want to target to see if you can bring him back to your squad in a 2-for-1. Before we do sell highs, I want to take a quick second to talk about Jock Market. Jock Market is a revolutionary daily fantasy platform that turns sports into a stock market. Jock Market, spelled JOCKMKT, offers live daily markets for sports that let you buy and sell shares of fantasy athletes in real time with other users, all for real money. And each share has a guaranteed payout at the end of the night. If you're in your off season for your favorite fantasy sport, no worries. You can use Jock Market for NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, and even NASCAR. Download the Jock Market app on Android or iOS and use the promo code GAMEPICK to receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. One more thing, your first market will also be risk-free with losses refunded up to $100. You literally have nothing to lose. To learn more, visit jockmarket.com and don't forget, use the promo code GAMEPICK. Now let's do our sell highs. The first guy I want to talk about is another trade deadline darling, of course, Cam Thomas. We love Cam Thomas, and he's dropping 40-point games like MJ in the playoffs, y'all. He's going off. But when Spencer Dinwiddie gets rolling, if Ben Simmons could bring it back to life, he's not going to be dropping 40 every night like that, y'all. You might be able to sell high if you grabbed him off of the waiver wire. So I would see what you can get on the trade market for Cam Thomas. Next up is a repeat offender on the sell high list. I've been talking about him, LeBron James, the king. I think we talked about him last week. He just hit and broke the record. Like, he broke Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record. So I promise you this. If the Lakers are out of contention for the playoffs or they're looking like they're not really performing, your man is going to rest. Trade him while you can. You even see the game after he broke the record, he rested. I'm telling you guys, this is your opportunity. See if you can put him in a package deal. Bring home Giannis, bring home Luka, bring home the Joker, one of those top tier guys for LeBron James. Another huge domino from the trade deadline, Kyrie Irving. Yes, Kyrie, you want to sell high on Kyrie. People are crazy about him right now. And with Luka still injured, he's going to have some really explosive games over the next week. If you can move him to bring back some first-round talent, even some second-round talent, I would consider moving Kyrie Irving. Next up is our Discord Q&A. To join our free private Discord of over 1,400 fantasy basketball fanatics, all you have to do is hit the link in the description of this episode. The first question is from Aussie Boomers, who is one of our Game Pick Day 1 OGs. Big shout out to you, Aussie Boomers. He wants to know, players to look for to have a massive improvement because of trades and different roles. I talked about a bunch of those guys already, but I just want to kind of talk about a new player that I didn't talk about that I think is going to have an uptick in performance. That is from the Phoenix Suns, Chris Paul. Now, I get it. Chris Paul gets banged up. He plays. Not my favorite fantasy player, but it's worth noting that he's putting up a lot of shots that he shouldn't really be putting up. Devin Booker's been injured. He's been injured. Whatever's happening is happening. But KD is coming to town, and it's going to be a priority for them to be healthy, but also have the opportunity to play together to develop some chemistry before the playoffs. So look for his assist numbers to take off. He might not be scoring crazy like that, but in category leagues and in points leagues, assists go a long way. So I would take a look at Chris Paul. Another player you want to look at also is Nick Claxton. Nick Claxton is a guy that is a defensive player of the year candidate, in my opinion, and in many people's opinion, but also with the departure of KD and Kyrie Irving, there's going to be tons of opportunity for him to increase his output in some areas like scoring and, of course, in rebounding. The next question is from Luca_18. He wants to know, is Sexton a good long-term option? Maybe. It remains to be seen. I talked about him a little earlier on in this episode, and I would be picking him up if I had a slot available for him and he was available in the waivers. Now, would I hold on to him? Not if he's not performing. I would give him a week or two to see how he does, because Utah is going to have to kind of figure out what their rotation looks like and feels like. But I think with Colin Sexton's skill set that he is valuable, and he'll be able to carve out a permanent role long term. But again, it remains to be seen. The next question is from Broken Skull 11. He wants to know, will Derek White still have fantasy value after Smart and Brown come back? And the answer is, heck to the nah. And I'll tell you why. Listen, Derek White is a great player, a good player. But him and Malcolm Brogdon are competing for playing time and usage. If they were on different teams, they would be killing it. Now, and Derek White had a really big game last night. I think he had like 80-something fantasy points, was on my bench in one of my leagues, breaks my heart. But I don't think that's something we can expect every day. So the amount of output you're getting from him now with Brown and Smart out, it might be a little lower than what you saw last night with that explosive game. Long term, I don't think he'll be able to give those kind of fantasy contributions with Smart and Brown on the floor. Again, if you need help with your fantasy squad, drop your questions in the comment section below. And again, very important, if you have a follow-up question, do not reply to your comment. Just start a whole new comment thread. I don't want to miss your question. I promise I will answer every single comment for this episode. If you want to learn our proven strategy for executing fantasy sports trades, please check out the next episode that pops up on your screen. And don't forget, play the waivers, set your lineups, and follow Game Pick, you freaking fantasy nerd.